Here's your drink, sir. And this, Serenity whispered, her trembling hand slipping a folded napkin under Jasper's glass, her dark eyes wide with fear. In the glittering world of a luxury jewelry store, a billionaire disguises himself as an ordinary customer, seeking the truth behind a scandal of fake diamonds. Serenity, a nervous waitress with a sharp mind, risks everything with a note that could unravel a web of deceit or cost her job. What secret does she uncover? How will Jasper, stunned by her courage, respond? This tale of bravery, betrayal, and unexpected sparks will keep you on edge. Join us as lies crumble and hearts collide in a story you won't forget. Where are you watching from? Drop your city below and hit that subscribe button to catch more gripping stories like this. Serenity Brooks balanced a tray of champagne flutes, weaving through the glittering crowd in the jewelry store's VIP lounge. Her crisp white uniform hugged her frame, the fabric stark against her dark skin, catching the glow of crystal chandeliers overhead. She forced a smile, nodding at a guest who barely glanced her way. Her feet ached from hours on the polished marble floor, but she kept moving, scanning the room for empty glasses. Tonight's event buzzed with wealthy clients, their laughter sharp and their diamonds sharper. Jasper Velmont slipped through the velvet-curtained entrance, his worn jacket and baseball cap a stark contrast to the tailored suits around him. He tugged the cap lower, gray eyes darting over the room. The complaints about fake diamonds had piled up, and Vienna Sterling, the store manager, was his prime suspect. He needed to blend in, observe, and catch her off guard. Settling at the bar, he signaled for a glass of water, his gaze locking on Serenity as she approached. "Water, sir?" Serenity's voice was soft, steady, but her hands trembled slightly as she set the glass down. Something about his piercing stare unsettled her. She'd seen his face before, on a magazine cover maybe. Her pulse quickened. Was this Jasper Velmont, the billionaire owner? No, it couldn't be. Not in that scruffy jacket. "Thanks," Jasper muttered, his voice low, studying her. She moved with purpose, but her eyes flicked nervously toward Vienna, who stood across the room in a red dress that screamed for attention. Vienna's hands hovered over a velvet box, her fingers brushing the clasp before she snapped it shut and handed it to a client. Jasper's jaw tightened. That wasn't protocol. Serenity cleared a nearby table, her ears catching a snatch of Vienna's conversation with Ellis Hawthorne, the accountant, who lingered by her side. "Make sure the delivery's clean tonight," Vienna said, her voice barely audible over the clink of glasses. Ellis nodded, his pale blue shirt rumpled under a cheap blazer. Serenity's stomach twisted. Delivery? The store wasn't expecting shipments this late. She moved to the next table, her mind racing. Last week, she'd noticed a diamond with an odd scratch in a display case. Nothing like the flawless stones the store prided itself on. And now this secretive exchange? Her fingers brushed against a crumpled receipt in the trash as she wiped down the table. She glanced around, then slipped it into her apron pocket, heart pounding. Vienna's voice cut through the hum of the crowd. "Serenity! Watch your tray!" The manager strode over, her red heels clicking, eyes narrowed. Serenity froze, clutching the tray as a flute teetered. It crashed to the floor, shattering. Gasps rippled through the guests. A woman in a pearl necklace smirked, leaning to her companion. "She doesn't belong here, does she?" Serenity's cheeks burned, but she knelt to gather the shards, muttering, "I'm sorry, Miss Sterling." Vienna loomed over her, voice icy. "Clean it up and stay out of my way. You're not paid to gawk." Serenity nodded, biting her lip, her hands shaking as she swept up the glass. Jasper watched from the bar, his fingers tightening around his glass. Vienna's reaction was too sharp, too personal. And Serenity, her quick glance at Vienna, the way she flinched, knew something. He leaned back, pretending to sip his water, but his eyes followed Serenity as she stood and hurried to the back. Her apron pocket bulged slightly, and he wondered what she'd tucked away. Serenity slipped into the staff corridor, her breath uneven. She pulled out the receipt, scanning it under the dim light. It listed a supplier she'd never heard of, with a payment far too high for routine stock. Her gut screamed that something was wrong, but confronting Vienna could cost her job. She needed this gig. Bills were piling up, and her sister Cora depended on her. Still, she couldn't shake the image of that scratched diamond. Across the room, Vienna caught Ellis's eye, jerking her head toward the corridor where Serenity had disappeared. "Keep an eye on her," she murmured, smoothing her dress. "She's too curious for her own good." Ellis nodded, his expression unreadable, and slipped away from the crowd. Jasper drained his glass, his mind working fast. Serenity's unease wasn't just nerves. She'd seen something, maybe heard something. He needed to get closer, figure out what she knew. As he stood to leave, he spotted her returning, her face composed but her eyes darting to Vienna. Their gazes met for a split second, and Jasper felt a jolt. She wasn't just a waitress. She was a wild card. Serenity resumed her rounds, forcing her hands to steady. The receipt burned in her pocket, a secret she wasn't sure she could keep. Vienna's warning echoed in her head, but so did the client's sneer. She didn't belong here? Fine. She'd prove them wrong. But first, she had to decide what to do about the man in the cap, and the truth he might uncover. The night pulsed on, the VIP lounge alive with wealth and whispers. Jasper melted into the crowd, his cap low, already planning his next move. Serenity, wiping down another table, felt the weight of eyes on her. Vienna's, Ellis's, maybe even his. The game had begun, and she was already in deeper than she'd planned. Serenity Brooks adjusted her white dress, the fabric clinging to her as she poured a glass of red wine at the VIP bar. The lounge hummed with soft jazz, the crowd thinner now as the night wound down. Her hands still shook from last night's chaos. Vienna's sharp words, the client's sneer, the receipt burning a hole in her apron pocket. She'd spent her break studying it, confirming her suspicions. The supplier listed didn't exist in the store's records, and the payment was absurdly high. Worse, she'd noticed another diamond with a faint scratch in the display case today. It's cut slightly off. This wasn't a mistake. It was a scheme. Jasper Velmont slid onto a bar stool, his baseball cap pulled low, faded jacket blending him into the shadows. He'd been up half the night, digging into Vienna Sterling's recent transactions. The complaints about fake diamonds were piling up, and Serenity's nervous glance at Vienna last night had stuck with him. She knew something, maybe more than she realized. He signaled for a drink, eyes locked on her. "Whiskey neat," he said, voice rough. Serenity nodded, pouring with practiced ease, but her gaze flicked to his face. Those gray eyes, they matched the ones from the magazine cover. Her heart raced. If this was Jasper Velmont, the billionaire owner, why was he here, dressed like a nobody? She slid the glass across the counter, her fingers brushing his. "Here you go," she said, voice steady despite the knot in her stomach. "Thanks," Jasper replied, sipping slowly, watching her. She moved fast, clearing glasses, but her eyes darted to Vienna, who stood near a display case, her green dress catching the light. Vienna was on edge, snapping at a staff member for a minor mistake. Jasper's instincts screamed Serenity was the key to cracking this. Serenity wiped down the bar, her mind spinning. She'd tried reporting the odd receipt through the store's internal hotline last week, but the call went nowhere. Someone had brushed her off, and Vienna had been colder ever since. If Jasper was who she thought, he deserved to know. But blowing the whistle could cost her everything. She glanced at him, catching his stare, and made a split-second choice. Grabbing a napkin, she scribbled, "I know you're Jasper Velmont. Vienna's selling fake diamonds. I have proof, but I'm scared. Meet me in the storage room, 10 p.m. She folded it, heart pounding, and tucked it under his glass before turning away. Ellis Hawthorne lingered near the bar, his rumpled blazer out of place among the polished guests. Vienna had sent him to watch Serenity, and he'd noticed her hovering near the trash last night. Now she was acting cagey again, her eyes flicking to the scruffy guy at the bar. He stepped closer, pretending to adjust his tie, and accidentally bumped her arm. A tray of empty glasses wobbled, wine splashing onto her dress. "Oh man, my bad," he said, flashing a fake smile, his eyes scanning her apron for anything suspicious. "It's fine," Serenity muttered, dabbing at the stain, her pulse spiking. Ellis's grin didn't reach his eyes, and she'd seen him whispering with Vienna too often. She forced a nod and moved to the sink, feeling his stare on her back. Vienna across the room caught the interaction, her lips curling. She adjusted her diamond necklace, the stones glinting, and strode toward Serenity. "Careful, Brooks," she said, voice low, her green dress shimmering. You're making a mess again. Don't think you can sneak around behind my back. She leaned closer, eyes narrowing. I see everything. Serenity froze, gripping the bar rag. I'm just doing my job, Miss Sterling, she said, keeping her tone even. Vienna's smile was cold, predatory, before she turned away, heels clicking. Serenity's chest tightened. Did Vienna know about the receipt? The napkin? Jasper watched the exchange, his fingers tightening around the glass. Vienna's tone wasn't just harsh, it was personal. He slipped the napkin from under his drink, unfolding it discreetly. The words hit him like a jolt. Serenity knew who he was. She had proof. His eyes flicked to her, now wiping the bar with forced calm. She was in over her head, but her courage intrigued him. Ellis sidled up to Serenity as she stacked glasses, his voice low. You're spending a lot of time with that guy, he said, nodding toward Jasper. What's his deal? Don't go stirring up trouble, Serenity. Jobs like this are hard to come by. His tone was light, but the warning was clear. Serenity's throat went dry. He's just a customer, she said, meeting his gaze. Ellis smirked, lingering a moment too long before walking off. She exhaled, her hands trembling. She'd crossed a line with that napkin, and there was no going back. Jasper drained his whiskey, pocketing the napkin. 10 o'clock in the storage room. He'd be there. Serenity wasn't just a lead. She was a risk, a wild card who could blow this wide open or get burned. He stood, blending into the crowd, his mind already mapping out the confrontation. Vienna and her lackey were sloppy, but dangerous. He needed to move fast. Serenity glanced at the clock. 9:15 p.m. 45 minutes until the meeting. Her stomach churned. She'd just handed a billionaire evidence that could get her fired. Or worse. Vienna's warning echoed, and Ellis's fake smile lingered in her mind. But the scratched diamonds, the fake supplier, they were real. She straightened, smoothing her stained dress. If Jasper was who she thought, he'd listen. If not, she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life. The lounge pulsed with late-night energy, guests oblivious to the storm brewing. Serenity grabbed a fresh tray, forcing herself to focus, but her eyes kept drifting to the storage room door. Jasper was gone, but his presence lingered, a promise and a threat. Vienna watched from the sidelines, her gaze sharp, while Ellis hovered nearby, his intentions unclear. Serenity's napkin had set something in motion, and the fallout was coming. Serenity Brooks pushed open the heavy door to the storage room, her green dress catching the faint glow of a single overhead bulb. The air smelled of polished wood and metal, shelves lined with velvet-lined boxes looming around her. Her heart hammered as she checked her watch. 9:58 p.m. 2 minutes until Jasper Velmont might show. She clutched a folder of evidence. Receipts, photos of scratched diamonds, transaction logs. Her hands shook, but she steadied them. She'd crossed a line with that napkin. Now she had to see it through. Jasper slipped into the room, shedding his baseball cap and jacket, revealing a sharp black vest that hugged his frame. His gray eyes scanned her, intense but cautious. You're punctual, he said, voice low, closing the door with a soft click. Show me what you've got, Serenity. She hesitated, then stepped forward, spreading the folder's contents on a crate. These receipts are from a supplier that doesn't exist, she said, pointing to a document. Payments are too high, and these diamonds, she tapped a photo, have flaws no high-end store would sell. I tried reporting it through the hotline, but someone shut me down. Vienna's been on me ever since. Jasper leaned over the crate, studying the evidence. Her handwriting was neat, her logic airtight. You've been thorough, he said, glancing up. Why risk it? You could have stayed quiet. Serenity's jaw tightened. This place is built on trust. People spend millions here. If Vienna's cheating them, it's wrong. Her voice wavered, but her eyes held his. I thought you'd want to know. He nodded, impressed. I do, but you're in deep now. Vienna's not working alone. I think Ellis Hawthorne's her muscle. He pulled out his phone, showing a grainy camera still of Vienna, and Ellis exchanging a box in the parking lot. Recognize this? Serenity's breath caught. That's from last week. I saw them out there acting cagey. She pointed to a transaction log. This matches the date. A payment went out right after. Jasper's lips curved slightly. You're sharp. I need you to keep digging, quietly. I'll protect you, but we have to move fast. Can you do that? She swallowed, nodding. I can, but Vienna's watching me. And Ellis, he's been too close lately. I'll handle them, Jasper said, his tone hard. Stick to your routine. Don't give them anything to suspect. He pocketed his phone, then paused. Why'd you trust me with this? You don't know me. Serenity looked away, her fingers brushing her dress. I don't, but I know what it's like to be lied to. If someone's ripping you off, you deserve the truth. Before Jasper could respond, a faint creak came from the corridor. He held up a hand, motioning for silence. They froze, listening. Footsteps, soft but deliberate, passed the door. Serenity's pulse spiked, her eyes wide. Jasper gestured for her to stay put, easing toward the door. He cracked it open, peering out. The hallway was empty. Someone's on to us, he whispered, closing the door. We're done here. Get back to the bar before anyone notices you're gone. Serenity gathered her folder, her hands trembling again. What if they saw me come in? They didn't, Jasper said, his voice firm. Go. I'll follow in a minute. She nodded, slipping out, her green dress aflash in the dim light. Back in the VIP lounge, Vienna Sterling sat at her desk in the manager's office, her red dress vivid against the dark wood. She tapped her phone, eyes narrowing as Ellis entered, his blazer rumpled. Well? She asked, voice sharp. She was in the storage room, Ellis said, leaning against the doorframe. With that guy from the bar. Didn't see his face, but they were alone. Vienna's fingers tightened around her phone. Serenity's poking her nose where it doesn't belong. Call her in, now. Serenity, back at the bar, barely had time to catch her breath when Vienna's voice crackled through her earpiece. Brooks, my office, immediately. Her stomach dropped. She smoothed her dress, forcing calm, and headed to the manager's office. Vienna stood as Serenity entered, her red dress gleaming. You've been sloppy tonight, she said, circling the desk. Missed orders, lingering in places you shouldn't. Care to explain? I was restocking, Serenity said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Just doing my job. Your job, Vienna snapped, is to serve, not snoop. I know you were in the storage room. What were you doing? Serenity's throat tightened. Checking inventory. It's part of closing duties. Vienna's smile was cold. You're digging your own grave, Brooks. Keep it up, and you'll be out of a job. She waved a hand, dismissing her. Get back to work. Serenity left, her legs weak. As she reached the bar, her phone buzzed with an anonymous text. Stop snooping, or you'll lose more than your job. She froze, glancing around. Ellis watched from across the room, his smirk chilling. Jasper, now in his car outside, gripped his phone, replaying Serenity's evidence in his mind. She was brave, sharp, and in danger. He sent a quick text to his security team. Check the store's hotline logs. Someone's covering for Vienna. Serenity's face lingered in his thoughts. Her courage, her fear. This was bigger than he'd thought, and she was right in the crosshairs. Serenity Brooks slipped into the bustling auction hall, her gold dress shimmering under the bright lights. The room thrummed with anticipation, wealthy bidders in tailored suits and glittering gowns clutching paddles, their eyes fixed on a sparkling diamond necklace displayed on a velvet pedestal. Serenity balanced a tray of champagne, weaving through the crowd, her heart pounding from last night's threat. The anonymous text. Stop snooping, or you'll lose more than your job. Still burned in her mind, but she forced a smile, serving drinks with practiced grace. Jasper Velmont, now in a sleek black vest, stood near the back, his sharp gaze tracking Vienna Sterling. His team had confirmed the hotline calls were intercepted, and Ellis Hawthorne's name kept popping up in suspicious emails. Serenity's evidence was solid, but they needed more to nail Vienna. He spotted Serenity, her gold dress a beacon in the crowd, and felt a tug of concern. She was holding up, but the strain in her eyes was clear. Serenity approached Jasper, offering a flute. Champagne, sir? She asked, her voice steady. Under the glass, she slid a USB drive, her fingers brushing his. Parking lot footage from Tuesday, she whispered, barely audible. Vienna's hiding fakes in the safe. Jasper palmed the drive, his touch lingering a moment too long. Good work, he murmured, their eyes locking. A flush crept up her neck, and she turned away, heart racing. His presence, confident, intense, unsettled her in ways she couldn't afford to dwell on. Vienna, in a deep blue dress that hugged her frame, watched from the auctioneer's podium, her diamond earrings glinting. She'd noticed Serenity's quick exchange with the man she still thought was a random client. Her lips curled. Serenity was getting too bold. She signaled Ellis, who hovered near the bar, his rumpled blazer out of place. "Time to tighten the leash," she muttered into her earpiece. Ellis sauntered over to Serenity as she refilled her tray. "Hey, you're killing it tonight," he said, his smile too wide. "How about a break? Grab a coffee with me after this." His tone was light, but his eyes searched her face, probing. Serenity stiffened, gripping the tray. "I'm good, thanks," she said, sidestepping him. Ellis's charm was a mask. She'd seen him with Vienna, swapping hushed words and shady glances. She moved back into the crowd, but her phone buzzed. A call from Cora, her sister, flashed on the screen. She ignored it, knowing Cora's demands for cash would only add to her stress. The auctioneer's gavel cracked and bids soared. Jasper slipped the USB into his pocket, his mind racing. Serenity's footage could be the break they needed, but her closeness to him was drawing attention. He caught Vienna's stare, her blue dress a stark contrast to Serenity's gold. She was plotting something. He could feel it. Halfway through the auction, Vienna approached Serenity, her heels clicking. "Brooks, you're needed in the back," she said, voice saccharine. Serenity followed, unease prickling her skin. In the manager's office, Vienna shut the door, her blue dress gleaming under the desk lamp. "You've been careless," she said, holding up a diamond bracelet. "This was found in your locker. Care to explain?" Serenity's stomach dropped. "That's not mine," she said, her voice firm despite the panic rising. "I've never seen it." Vienna's smile was venomous. "Stealing from the store. That's a firing offense. Maybe worse." She stepped closer, her voice dropping. "Unless you want to tell me what you've been whispering to that man in the crowd." Serenity's hands clenched. "I'm not a thief, and you know it." Her eyes darted to the door, praying for an escape. The door swung open and Jasper strode in, his vest crisp, his presence commanding. "What's going on?" he demanded, eyes flicking between them. Vienna faltered, her composure slipping. "She's accusing me of stealing," Serenity said, pointing to the bracelet. "It's a setup." Jasper's jaw tightened. "Check the security footage," he said, voice cold. "Now." Vienna hesitated, then nodded, her smile strained. "Of course, Mr. Velmont." She pulled up the feed on her laptop, her fingers trembling. The video showed her slipping the bracelet into Serenity's locker earlier that day. Her face paled. "You're done here, Vienna," Jasper said, his tone final. "Security's on their way." Vienna's eyes flashed with fury. "You'll regret this, Brooks," she hissed, storming out, her blue dress a blur. Serenity exhaled, her legs weak, but Jasper's steady gaze anchored her. "You okay?" he asked, softer now, stepping closer. She nodded, swallowing hard. "I didn't think you'd get here so fast." "I told you I'd have your back," he said, his voice low. Their eyes met, and for a moment the air crackled with something unspoken. Trust, maybe more. Serenity's pulse raced, but she pushed it down. This wasn't the time. Back in the auction hall, the crowd was none the wiser, bids still climbing. Serenity returned to her tray, her gold dress catching the light, but her mind was reeling. Vienna's trap had failed, but her parting words lingered like a threat. Ellis watched from the bar, his smirk gone, replaced by a calculating stare. Jasper rejoined the crowd, the USB burning in his pocket. Serenity had just survived one trap, but the game was far from over. Serenity Brooks sat on her couch, the dim light of her small apartment casting shadows across her white t-shirt. Her phone buzzed relentlessly. Cora, her sister, texting about tuition fees again. Serenity ignored it, her mind replaying the auction hall fiasco. Vienna's failed trap had exposed her, and Jasper's swift intervention had saved her job, but the fallout was brutal. Gossip swirled among the staff, whispers of favoritism trailing her every shift. She rubbed her temples, the weight of it all pressing down. Jasper Velmont paced his sleek office, the city skyline framed by floor-to-ceiling windows behind him. His black vest was unbuttoned, tie loosened. Security footage and Serenity's evidence had confirmed Vienna and Ellis Hawthorne's scheme. Over $500,000 siphoned through fake suppliers and counterfeit diamonds. He'd suspended them both, pending a full investigation. But the damage was done. The press had caught wind, and headlines screamed, "Waitress turned whistleblower," or "opportunist." Jasper's jaw clenched. Serenity didn't deserve this. At the store, Serenity slipped into the VIP lounge, her gold dress catching the soft lighting. She served drinks, ignoring the sidelong glances from coworkers. Jasper had called her to his office, and she dreaded the meeting. Was he regretting her involvement? She'd handed him the truth, but at what cost? Her phone buzzed again. Cora, now calling. Serenity silenced it, her patience fraying. Jasper greeted her in his office, his expression unreadable. "You've done incredible work," he said, gesturing to a chair. "Your evidence was the key. I want you as my assistant, Serenity. You've got the instincts for this." Serenity froze, her gold dress suddenly feeling too bright, too exposed. "Assistant?" she echoed, voice tight. "I'm just a waitress." "You're more than that," Jasper said, leaning forward. "You saw what no one else did. I need you on my team." She looked away, her fingers twisting in her lap. The offer was a lifeline, but the gossip, already vicious, would explode. She'd seen the blogs, the snide comments, calling her a gold digger, cozying up to the boss. And Cora's call reminded her of the bills piling up. She couldn't afford to be a scandal. Across town, Thane Carver, Jasper's father, stormed into the boardroom, his gray vest impeccable, red tie a sharp contrast. "You're letting this girl drag our name through the mud," he snapped, tossing a tablet onto the table. The screen showed a headline: "Billionaire's Pet Project or Corporate Conspiracy." "Fix this, Jasper, or the board will." Jasper's eyes narrowed. "Serenity's the reason we caught Vienna. She's earned her place." Thane scoffed. "Earned? She's a liability. Cut her loose, or you'll lose more than your reputation." Back at the store, Serenity stood to leave Jasper's office, her decision made. "I can't take the job," she said, voice steady but soft. "Not now. The rumors. They're tearing me apart. I need to prove I'm more than your project." Jasper's face tightened, a flicker of hurt in his eyes. "You're not a project. You're brilliant." She shook her head, her gold dress shimmering as she moved. "I'm grateful, but I need to do this my way. I'll work with Marigold Finch, learn the business, and finish my design degree. I can't stand next to you until I stand on my own." Jasper stood, stepping closer. "You don't have to do this alone." "I do," she said, meeting his gaze. "For me." Her voice cracked, but she held firm. That night at her apartment, Serenity scrolled through her phone, wincing at Cora's latest post, a blurry video of her serving Jasper at the auction, captioned, "My sis with the big boss." Comments flooded in, accusing Serenity of climbing the ladder on her back. She slammed the phone down, tears stinging her eyes. Cora burst through the door, her bright pink t-shirt clashing with the room's gloom. "Why are you mad?" she demanded, tossing her bag onto the couch. "That video's getting likes." "It's ruining me," Serenity snapped, standing. "You think this is a game? I'm drowning in rumors, Cora." Cora's face fell. "I was just proud of you," she mumbled. But Serenity turned away, too raw to respond. Jasper, in his penthouse, stared at the city lights. His phone opened to the same video. His father's warning echoed, but Serenity's words cut deeper. She was pulling away, and he couldn't stop her. He texted Marigold, "Take Serenity under your wing. Give her everything she needs." Then he set the phone down, his chest tight. He'd promised to protect her, but this distance, was her choice. Serenity lay awake, the glow of her phone illuminating her white t-shirt. Cora's video had unleashed a storm, and the world was watching, judging. She'd chosen her path, but the cost was steep. Jasper's faith in her lingered, a flicker of warmth in the chaos, but so did the fear that she'd lose everything before she could prove herself. Serenity Brooks stood at the head of a glass conference table, her white dress crisp against her dark skin, a tablet glowing in her hands. The boardroom buzzed with murmurs from executives, their eyes fixed on her. 18 months had passed since she'd walked away from Jasper Velmont's offer, choosing to carve her own path. Under Marigold Finch's mentorship, she'd finished her design degree with honors and led a supply chain overhaul, saving the company millions. Today, she was presenting her first major strategy to the board, and the weight of it pressed against her chest. Jasper sat at the table's far end, his black vest tailored, his gaze steady but distant. He'd kept his promise, giving Serenity space, limiting their contact to professional nods and brief emails. The company had grown, new stores, bolder designs, but the void she'd left lingered. He watched her now, her confidence a quiet fire, and felt a mix of pride and ache. The rumors had faded, but not the memory of her gold dress, her trembling voice saying she needed to stand alone. Serenity tapped the tablet, projecting charts onto the screen. Our new sourcing model cuts costs by 15% while ensuring ethical diamonds, she said, her voice clear. We've also boosted customer trust with transparent certifications. She moved through the data, her knowledge sharp, her poise unshakable. The board leaned in, scribbling notes. Marigold Finch in a beige blazer nodded approvingly from the side. She'd pushed Serenity hard, testing her with late nights and complex projects, but the young woman had exceeded every expectation. Marigold caught Jasper's eye, a silent acknowledgement. Serenity was no longer just a waitress. Thane Carver, Jasper's father, sat near the front, his red tie stark against his gray vest. He'd been skeptical, warning Jasper about the risks of Serenity's involvement. Now he watched her, his expression unreadable. Midway through, he raised a hand. Ms. Brooks, your resume is thin, no formal business degree, just a partial design program. Why should we trust your numbers? Serenity's grip on the tablet tightened, but she met his gaze. My numbers come from 18 months of hands-on work, she said. I've audited every supplier, rebuilt our contracts, and delivered results you can verify. My resume may be thin, but my track record isn't. The room stilled, tension crackling. Thane's lips twitched, almost a smile. Bold, show me the revenue projections. She did, her voice steady, detailing growth forecasts with precision. The board murmured, impressed. Marigold's eyes gleamed with pride. Jasper's fingers clenched under the table, his chest tight with admiration, and something deeper. As the meeting wrapped, a junior executive slid a tablet to his colleague, whispering about a new article. From Waitress to Wonder, Serenity Brooks' meteoric rise, or PR stunt. The old photo of Serenity and Jasper in the storage room, grainy but damning, was splashed across it. Serenity caught the exchange, her stomach lurching. Vienna Sterling, long gone from the company, had to be behind this, her spite reaching from the shadows. Serenity gathered her tablet, her hands steady despite the sting. She'd faced worse. Marigold approached, resting a hand on her arm. You nailed it, she said softly. Don't let the noise get to you. I won't, Serenity said, forcing a smile. But the article gnawed at her, a reminder of the world's refusal to let her rise clean. Thane lingered, approaching her. You surprised me, Ms. Brooks, he said, his tone gruff but genuine. Most would have buckled under scrutiny. You didn't. He nodded, a rare gesture, and left. Jasper stayed back, his vest unbuttoned, his eyes on Serenity as the room cleared. You were incredible, he said, voice low. They're listening because of you. She met his gaze, the air heavy between them. I had to be, she said, her voice soft but firm. I couldn't let them, or you, down. You never could, he said, stepping closer, then stopping himself. The distance she'd asked for still held, a wall neither dared breach. He nodded, turning to leave, but his shoulders were tense, his heart loud in his chest. Outside, Serenity checked her phone, finding a text from Cora. Saw the article. It's garbage. You're killing it, sis. She smiled, the warmth easing her nerves. Cora had grown up since the video scandal, her support a quiet anchor. But the article's sting lingered, Vienna's shadow a persistent thorn. In her office, Marigold reviewed the board's feedback, already planning Serenity's next project. The young woman was a star, but the world was cruel, and Marigold knew it. She'd shield her as long as she could. Serenity stepped into the hallway, her white dress catching the light. The boardroom victory was hers, but the article, and Jasper's unspoken longing, hung heavy. She'd proven herself, but at what cost? The world was watching, and Vienna's poison wasn't done yet. Serenity Brooks stood center stage in the grand hall, her white gown radiant under the spotlight, its soft glow accentuating her dark skin. The room pulsed with anticipation, chandeliers casting prisms over rows of velvet chairs filled with elite clients and press. Her first jewelry collection, a series of ethically sourced diamond pieces, sparkled on display, each design a testament to her vision. She gripped the podium, her heart steady despite the crowd's weighty gaze. 18 months of relentless work had led to this, and she was ready. Jasper Velmont leaned against the side wall, his black vest sharp, eyes fixed on Serenity. Her poise, her fire, It stirred something deep, a longing he'd buried since she'd asked for distance. The company had soared under her influence, her supply chain fixes and bold designs earning praise. But the headlines, fueled by Vienna Sterling's spite, still lingered, questioning her rise. Tonight, he'd end that noise for good. Serenity addressed the crowd, her voice clear. This collection isn't just about beauty, it's about trust, she said, gesturing to a necklace with a teardrop diamond. Every stone is certified, every piece crafted with integrity. The audience nodded, some scribbling notes, others whispering approval. Marigold Finch, in a pastel blazer, sat in the front row, her smile warm. Cora Brooks, in a bright yellow dress, beamed from the side, her pride evident. Thane Carver, Jasper's father, watched from a reserved seat, his red tie a stark contrast to his gray vest. He doubted Serenity, warned Jasper about the risks, but her boardroom triumph had shifted his view, and now her collection sealed it. He leaned forward, intrigued, his stern face softening. As Serenity stepped down, Jasper caught her arm, guiding her to a quiet alcove off the hall. "You were phenomenal," he said, his voice low, eyes intense. "But I need to talk. Privately." He led her to the VIP lounge, now empty, its bar dark and tables cleared. Serenity's pulse quickened, her white gown brushing the floor. "What's this about?" she asked, searching his face. The air between them crackled, heavy with unspoken years. Jasper pulled a small velvet box from his pocket, opening it to reveal a delicate necklace, a single diamond shaped like a star. "This is from the first fake stone you spotted," he said, his voice rough. "I had it recut, made real for you. Because you changed everything, Serenity. For the company, for me." Her breath caught, fingers tracing the star. "Jasper, She stopped, eyes glistening. "I never stopped thinking about you. These 18 months, every late night, every win, it was to stand here, equal, unafraid." He stepped closer, the space between them vanishing. "I waited," he said, voice raw. "I love you, Serenity. I've loved you since that napkin, that storage room. I'm done waiting." Tears spilled down her cheeks, but she smiled, radiant. "I love you too," she whispered. "I'm ready now." He fastened the necklace around her throat, his fingers lingering, and pulled her into a kiss. Fierce, tender, a release of bottled years. She melted into him, her hands gripping his vest, the world fading away. Cora burst into the lounge, her yellow dress a flash of light. "Sis, you killed it," she said, then froze, grinning. "Oh, wow, bad timing. I'll just go." She winked, backing out, leaving them laughing softly. Marigold approached later, her eyes knowing. "You've built something extraordinary," she said to Serenity, then glanced at Jasper. "Both of you." She squeezed Serenity's arm and left, her approval a quiet gift. Thane found them in the hall, his expression gruff but warm. "You've proven yourself, Ms. Brooks," he said, nodding. "Don't let my son mess this up." Jasper chuckled, and Thane walked away, a rare smile tugging at his lips. As the event wound down, a reporter cornered Serenity outside, her mic thrust forward. "Ms. Brooks, people say you only got here because of Jasper Velmont. Are you truly worthy of him?" The question stung, echoing old wounds. Serenity straightened, the star necklace glinting. "I'm worthy of myself," she said, voice firm. "My work, my designs, my results, they speak for me." She turned to Jasper, who took her hand, his eyes fierce with pride. He kissed her, unapologetic, as cameras flashed, silencing the reporter's follow-up. They left the hall hand in hand, Serenity's white gown flowing, Jasper's arm steady around her. The city lights sparkled beyond the glass doors, a new chapter unfolding. Cora trailed behind, snapping a photo for herself, no longer reckless but proud. The press would talk, but Serenity didn't care. She'd built her place, her love, her truth, and no one could take that away. What a journey for Serenity and Jasper. Their story of courage, love, and triumph resonates deeply. What did you think of their fight against the odds? Share your thoughts below. We'd love to hear them. Thank you for joining us in this tale of heart and hustle. Stay tuned for more stories that spark emotion and inspire. Until next time, keep shining.